The music was so loud that the guards outside could feel the floor vibrating. Inside the so-called VIP cell, neon lights flashed over men dancing, drinking, and gambling like they were in a club. Not in one of the most overcrowded prisons on earth. A jacuzzi bubbled in the corner. A drug lab sat hidden behind a bookshelf. And standing in the center of it all was the man everyone feared. A gang boss known by every inmate, every guard, and even the officials who pretended they didn't know what was happening. But that night, everything shattered. Without warning, the steel doors of the hallway slammed open. A wave of armed officers stormed inside, shouting orders as inmates panicked. Bottles cracked on the floor. Music cut off. Someone tried to escape through a secret passage. The gang boss froze as flashlights hit his face. Then the officers found something no one expected. Something that would shake the entire Philippines and expose the truth about New Bilibid Prison. Before anyone could react, the power suddenly went out, drowning the room in darkness. And in that blackout, someone screamed. What the officers found when the lights came back on would change the prison forever. But to understand how things reached this terrifying moment, we have to go back to where the chaos of New Bilibid Prison truly began. New Bilibid Prison was never built for tens of thousands of people. But over the years, more and more inmates were pushed inside until the prison became its own city, crowded, hot, loud, and nearly impossible to control. Long hallways were packed with men sleeping on the floor. Stairwells became tiny homes. Even the open yard was so full that people had to take turns walking. And in the middle of this chaos, gangs ruled everything. They controlled the food, the beds, the phones, the drugs, and even the guards. If someone wanted protection, they had to pay. If they wanted medicine, they had to pay. If they wanted a safe place to sleep, they had to pay. Money moved inside the prison just like outside, except here, the gangs were the banks. One inmate, Daniel Carter, arrived at New Bilibid on a hot afternoon. He had heard stories, but nothing prepared him for the truth. As he walked past cell blocks overflowing with men, he saw gang lookouts watching from every corner. They whispered to each other, tracking every new face. Daniel had barely taken 5 steps when a guard leaned close and said quietly, "Choose a group fast, or you won't last a night." Daniel didn't want any part of gang life, but in New Bilibid, wanting didn't matter. Survival did. He soon discovered that some inmates lived like kings. One afternoon, while cleaning a hallway, Daniel saw a door open to a VIP cell. Inside, he glimpsed a soft bed, an air conditioner, a TV, and a refrigerator full of food. It looked nicer than his old apartment. A guard shut the door quickly, but Daniel had seen enough to understand. The prison wasn't broken. It was bought. Days turned into weeks, and Daniel learned the prison's secret rhythm. By day, inmates traded goods in small hidden markets. At night, gang groups met to plan deals, fights, or drug routes, running both inside and outside the walls. Everyone pretended the guards were in charge, but inside those walls, the gangs gave the real orders. Still, Daniel kept to himself, until he witnessed something he shouldn't have. One evening, on his way back from the yard, Daniel saw a group of inmates carrying crates toward a restricted area. The crates were heavy, and the men moved quickly, looking over their shoulders. Daniel stepped aside to let them pass, but as they turned the corner, one crate slipped open, and inside were weapons. Real weapons. Daniel froze. He knew if they saw him staring, he would disappear. No questions, no warnings. So he kept walking, pretending he saw nothing, but his heart hammered inside his chest. If guns were entering the prison, the gangs were preparing for something big, something dangerous. That night, as Daniel lay awake listening to distant shouting and metal clanging, a terrible thought formed in his mind. The prison wasn't just overcrowded, it was ready to explode. And the explosion came sooner than anyone expected. During the next morning's roll call, a rival gang suddenly rushed the courtyard, armed with the hidden weapons. Guards shouted, inmates scattered, and Daniel dove to the ground as chaos erupted around him. Gunshots echoed through New Bilibid Prison. And in that moment, everything changed forever. Gunshots ripped through the courtyard like fireworks, but deadly ones. Men scattered in every direction, diving behind broken walls, water tanks, or anything that could shield them. Guards screamed for order, but their voices were swallowed by the roar of chaos. Daniel Carter stayed flat on the ground, his face pressed to the hot concrete as bullets cracked inches above his head. This was no random fight. This was an attack planned long before the first shot was fired. Two gangs, rivals for years, had finally reached a breaking point. The weapons Daniel saw the night before were now in the hands of furious men determined to take control of New Bilibid Prison once and for all. As Daniel crawled toward a concrete pillar, he heard someone yelling orders. It was the same gang boss from the VIP cell raid, the one who ran half the illegal operations inside the prison. He shouted commands to his men like a general on a battlefield. Push forward. Take that block before they regroup. Daniel peeked up just long enough to see the boss waving his arm, guiding the attackers. It felt unreal, a war inside a prison, while guards desperately tried to stop it using batons and shields that were useless against bullets. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from the far side of the yard, a homemade explosive thrown by one of the inmates. Dust and smoke shot up, and the shockwave lifted Daniel off the ground. His ears rang as he landed on his back, dazed and coughing. Men ran past him, some bleeding, some screaming, others firing wildly. A guard grabbed Daniel's arm, pulling him behind a wall. "Stay down. Don't move," the guard shouted. But before Daniel could answer, another blast struck the opposite side of the courtyard, sending more inmates running for cover. The entire yard was turning into a battlefield. After nearly an hour of chaos, backup forces from outside the prison finally arrived. Armed officers swarmed the compound, pushing the gangs back with shields and warning shots. One of the gang leaders shouted for his men to fall back, and the fighting slowly died down as inmates scattered into different blocks. When silence finally returned, blood stained the ground. The air smelled like smoke, sweat, and fear. Daniel's hands shook as he pushed himself up, still struggling to understand how a prison could be allowed to reach this level of destruction. But deep inside New Bilibid, nothing ended that easily. In the days that followed, rumors spread like wildfire. Some said the gang leader stored even more weapons inside the VIP rooms. Others claimed he bribed higher officials to look the other way. Whispers floated through the hallways about a secret tunnel leading to hidden drugs, guns, and money. Daniel stayed quiet, keeping his head low. But even he noticed the strange things happening. Guards were nervous. Gang members met in tight groups, and the atmosphere felt like the calm before another storm. One afternoon, Daniel was assigned to clean near the administrative wing, an area few inmates were allowed to enter. As he mopped the hallway, two guards walked past him, whispering urgently. "They're planning another raid," one guard said. "When?" asked the other. "Tonight. Higher officials want everything exposed. No special treatment this time." Daniel paused mid-swipe. Another raid? Inside the same block where the VIP cells were located? If the first raid shocked the country, a second one would shake the prison to its core. He didn't want to be anywhere near that wing when it happened. But fate didn't care about what Daniel wanted. That night, long after lights out, he heard heavy boots marching outside his cell. Flashlights flickered through the hallway. Doors slammed open. Officers shouted orders as they pushed through the block. Daniel sat up, feeling dread crawl up his spine. A second major raid had begun. Guards forced inmates into the hallway, ordering them to sit against the walls. More officers rushed toward the VIP section, the same place where clubs and jacuzzis were once found. Daniel looked around. The other inmates were confused, scared, or pretending not to care. But everyone knew what raids meant. Someone important was about to fall. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the VIP wing, followed by shouting. Then another crash. Then another. It sounded like they were breaking down doors, one after another. But just when the officers reached the last VIP room, something unexpected happened. The hallway lights flickered, then went completely black. A blackout. In the darkness, inmates screamed. Officers shouted. Someone ran past Daniel, brushing his shoulder. And then out of nowhere, an explosive blast erupted from the VIP section, shaking the entire block. Dust filled the hallway. Men screamed, and Daniel's heart stopped as a giant wave of heat pushed through the darkness. The raid had triggered something far more dangerous, something no one was prepared for. The explosion rocked the entire block, shaking dust loose from the ceiling and throwing Daniel sideways against the wall. Screams filled the pitch-black hallway as panicked inmates shoved and scrambled in every direction. Officers yelled for everyone to stay still, but no one could see a thing. Not the fallen debris, not the smoke sliding across the floor, not the danger waiting somewhere ahead. Daniel coughed, waving his hand in front of his face, trying to breathe through the thick dust. His ears rang from the blast, and for a moment he couldn't hear anything except a deep, heavy thudding. His own heartbeat. He forced himself to crawl toward the wall, remembering the guard's order from earlier. Stay down. Don't move. But staying down wouldn't save him now. Somewhere ahead, in the darkness, feet pounded the ground. Someone pushed through the chaos, running fast, too fast to be an inmate stumbling blindly. Daniel ducked as the figure brushed past him, knocking several prisoners aside. From the way people yelled, whoever it was had shoved an officer too. The blackout wasn't an accident. It was a cover. As more lights flickered weakly in the hallway, dim, dying, like candles in a storm, Daniel finally saw shapes forming. Officers were fighting to control the crowd. Inmates were shouting. Smoke seeped from the VIP wing where the explosion had occurred. But the one thing Daniel noticed most? The gang boss was missing. He wasn't among the inmates sitting against the walls. He wasn't with the group being questioned. His body wasn't among those hurt by the blast. Daniel's stomach twisted. Had he escaped through the chaos? The smoke thickened, forcing officers to pull gas masks over their faces. One guard shouted, "Clear the block." Everyone moved to the yard. Now, the prisoners were hurried down the hallway, coughing and covering their faces. Daniel shuffled along, his mind racing. How could the gang boss just vanish? Had the explosion been planted? Was it meant to destroy evidence or create confusion? When they reached the courtyard, Daniel squinted under the bright floodlights. Armed officers surrounded the perimeter. Dozens of inmates sat on the ground with their hands behind their heads. Medical teams rushed toward the block to pull out the injured. Daniel sat quietly, trying to catch his breath. Night air cooled his face, but his heartbeat still raced. Around him, everything buzzed with panic. But then an officer's radio crackled loudly. "Control, be advised," a voice said. "We found a tunnel behind the VIP cell." Repeat, a tunnel. The courtyard fell silent. A tunnel. Daniel felt the world freeze around him. That explained everything. The blackout, the blast, the missing gang boss. He hadn't been trying to hide from the raid. He'd been escaping. Seconds later, a group of officers marched out of the block, carrying tools, flashlights, and a map covered in dust. "This tunnel wasn't dug in a day," one officer muttered. "This took months, maybe years." The warden stormed into the courtyard, furious and sweating. "Find where it leads," he yelled. Now, Daniel watched as officers rushed back inside. He didn't know whether to feel shocked or impressed. This wasn't just a prison break. It was a carefully planned operation, built right under the guards' noses. Maybe even with help. Hours passed. Inmates sat quietly waiting. Then, finally, the officers returned, their faces serious. The tunnel ended near the outer wall, just a few feet from freedom. But the gang boss wasn't at the end. He was gone. "Lock down the entire facility," the warden shouted. "No one leaves the courtyard." But it was too late. Word spread fast, carried by whispers and nervous glances. The most powerful inmate in New Bilibid Prison, the man who ran drugs, weapons, and the VIP world, had slipped away during the raid. Not into another cell. Not deeper into the prison, but out. By sunrise, helicopters circled the prison. Commanders shouted orders. Guards searched room after room. And every inmate felt the same chill. If a man could build a club, hide weapons, run businesses, and dig an escape tunnel inside the most overcrowded prison in the world, Then New Bilibid Prison wasn't a prison at all. It was a kingdom, and its king had just vanished into the world beyond the walls. What happened next, what the government uncovered, what the investigation revealed, and what the gang boss did after escaping, became one of the most shocking stories ever connected to New Bilibid Prison. But that is a story for another chapter.